I'm honored to introduce the chief guest, Dr. Harsha Aturupane, lead economist and program leader for World Bank in Sri Lanka and the Maldives. He has a PhD in economics from the University of Cambridge and a Bachelor of Arts in Economics and postgraduate diploma in economic development from the University of Colombo. He has written extensively on human development, economics, labor economics, health economics, and the economics of the poverty and income distribution, as well as general education and higher education. He has led teams in the preparation and supervision of World Bank projects and programs covering many aspects of development issues. I would like to invite Dr. Harsha Aturupane to deliver the convocation address.
The Vice Chancellor of SLIIT, the academics, graduates of the Postgraduate Diploma in Education, parents and other distinguished guests, it is a great pleasure to be here today at this convocation where so many of very charming young ladies and some charming young gentlemen are receiving the Postgraduate Diploma in Education. It is also always a pleasure to be in universities and among university communities, including academics and graduates. I expect that many of you who are the recipients of the Postgraduate Diploma in Education would be school teachers. Perhaps all of you are teachers. And you will look forward to a career as school teachers. A small number of you might also go on to become school principals. Perhaps you all haven't thought about it now, but maybe one day, some years into the future, if you become school principals, perhaps you will remember this convocation and that I thought that might happen. And then some of you also might become curriculum developers, or you all might yourselves become academics and become teacher educators. And perhaps some of you might also become Sri Lanka Education Administrative Service officials. So you will have a career in education. And that's a great privilege and also a pleasure, I'm sure, for you who have chosen that profession. We know from studies of happiness, studies of human happiness, that one of the things that comes out universally as generating happiness is spending time in the presence of children. Spending time in the presence of small children or adolescents or youth, young people, is something that always comes across as generating pleasure and happiness to human beings across cultures and across ages. So when you work in education, you will have that privilege of working with young people. Some of you will work with young children, some of you with adolescents, some of you with youth, and that will be a great pleasure for you for 30, 40 years to come, however many years you all may work. There is also the fact that now in 2023, we are facing a number of challenges that this generation of teachers and educators and academics will have to face, because we are now in what is called the fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution, which is dated to around 1760, 1780, was the beginning of the steam engine and the beginning of mechanized industrial processes. The second industrial revolution, about the 1860s onwards, was when really automated industrial processes came on stream. The third industrial revolution, around 1960, was when we had computers and electronics and so on in production processes. And then the fourth industrial revolution, the term was introduced in 2016 at the World Economic forum in Switzerland. So it's very recent. And in the fourth industrial revolution, we have artificial intelligence, augmented reality, biotechnology, big data, the Internet of Things, and that is going to transform and revolutionize our lives in many ways, including education systems. So what happens when there is an industrial revolution is that the whole way in which economic life is organized changes. The way in which production takes place, consumption takes place, the way in which services are provided is transformed, and that feeds into the labor market, into the job market, and from the job market into education systems. So one of the things that happens when there is an industrial revolution is that some jobs get lost, some jobs become obsolete, and those jobs then disappear. So for instance, some of you all, of course, you all are young, you all will not remember this, but your parents and grandparents can tell you there was a time when people would drive carts, bullock carts, horse carriages. Then you needed people who would be able to drive these bullock carts and these horse carriages and so on. That job has disappeared because we no longer have horse carriages and bullock carts except for very special ceremonies. So that job has mainly disappeared, the drivers of carriage horses and bullock carts. Some of you all again in the older generations may remember there was a job called the stenotypist job. So there were people who would dictate, and a stenotypist would take down the dictation in shorthand, and the typist would go and type this up in a typewriter somewhere, and then would come back and show the person who dictated it, and then they would look at it and correct it, and eventually the document would be ready. Now we don't have stenotypists anymore because people directly type into their laptops or notebooks or computers. We no longer need that stenotypist job. So some jobs disappear, and that happens with the industrial revolutions. It will happen with the fourth industrial revolution. So people are looking at the kinds of advertisements that come for jobs, LinkedIn and all of these job advertisement platforms, and they say that certain jobs like the accounting job is now disappearing. People no longer need the old-fashioned bookkeeping accountants. Accounting software does that job. And they're also saying that jobs like the radiologist job might disappear because now you have automation, you have software that can do the job of a radiologist. So like this, we will see some jobs disappearing. We also see with these huge technological changes that there are new jobs that come up. So the whole software industry, computers, and that entire set of jobs that come with computers and software is a set of jobs that came with the third industrial revolution. Those jobs didn't exist in the time of the first or the second industrial revolution. Similarly, there are jobs that are now being thrown up in the fourth industrial revolution, jobs linked to artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and so on, which didn't exist before, but now those jobs are coming up. And you all will have to prepare your students for those jobs, the new jobs that will come, with new technology and with new information. But also what happens with jobs is that there are many jobs that don't disappear. These are not new jobs, they are existing jobs. But they will be done in new ways with new technology, and then you need new skills to do those jobs. So jobs in education, the job of a university academic or a school teacher is an old job. It has been there. In fact, academics and teachers were there even before the first industrial revolution. But the way the job is done changes, and then you need new skills. So older generations of teachers didn't use computers, academics and teachers. They didn't use computers, they didn't use software, but modern generations do, because now the technology exists, and then that becomes part of the way in which the services are delivered. And then you need those skills. You need the skills of someone who can use computers and software and modern technology in teaching in the universities or in research or in teaching in schools. And so you all will have technology that wasn't available to earlier generations of teachers. And you all will have to use these technologies that will come. Some of them already exist. Some of them are evolving fast. And you all will need skills to use those technologies as you teach your children. As you teach your children in schools, or in some cases, as you all teach in universities. And what we also see is that young people are what are called technology natives. So some of these new revolutionary technologies that are even for you young people a revolution, for children who will come into your classes in a few years, they would have just grown up with it. For them, they will take those technologies for granted. So you all would think, for example, if you think back, say, to your grandfathers and grandmothers, the smartphone was not something they were used to, right? And in fact, many of them may not use smartphones. But for children, and of course the younger generation yourselves, you take a smartphone for granted. In fact, you get very frustrated if there is no internet connection. So like that, you will see these revolutionary technologies, and you will see young people coming into your schools and classes for whom these technologies are just taken for granted. And then your teaching and the work you do with them will have to reflect that the technology available, and then you will need the skills for these, for the teaching that you do for these younger generations. And then we also know that in some cases, we have very recent entrances into the education system with technology, like artificial intelligence, which now universities and schools around the world have to grapple with in terms of the way the curriculum is delivered, the way teaching and learning is done, and particularly the way assessment is done. And so again, this is a challenge that your younger generation, you all who are just starting on your teaching careers and in your education careers, and those who are involved in universities and in academic teaching and research, will have to now start addressing. There are challenges that have to be met, and then there are opportunities with these new technologies which can be used, but it is up to you to define how the opportunities are used and how best you can make use of all the new technologies and new skills that come. So this is, of course, an exciting time, especially to be a young person starting out in an educational career, because you have a large number of opportunities. Some of these are opportunities that are still in research labs and haven't come out into the public domain yet, but they will come soon. And there are other opportunities that have now come. And you all will have in a way the pleasure of creating a new education environment using these new technologies. So in a way, it's a very exciting time to be here as teachers and academics at the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. There are also some lessons we have learned about the way economic prosperity and social prosperity occur in the context of these industrial revolutions, the first, the second, the third, and now the fourth industrial revolution, which is important for you to take forward as teachers. And I hope you all will be able to share these lessons, both with your students, the children that you will teach, but also with other communities, other teachers with whom you interact in your schools and other workplaces. So we see that the maximum benefits of technology and of innovations and of new knowledge and new learning happens in the context of a market economy. So we have seen this over and over again, whether we talk of economies like Japan or South Korea or Singapore, or whether we talk of economies like those in North America or Western Europe. And also when we look at the way economies have changed even in the developing world, we see that the market economies are best able to generate prosperity using new information, new technology, new institutions. And I think a very interesting example of that is actually SLIIT. SLIIT itself is an example of how the market accommodates higher education and can generate an extremely impressive high quality institution over a relatively short period of time, over about 24, 25 years. So within the lifetimes of everybody in this audience. But if a higher education institution can generate high quality teaching and learning and research at a reasonable, affordable price, it can develop very fast. So this is an excellent, your institution where you got your degrees, your postgraduate degrees, is an excellent example of the dynamism of markets. So you should carry this through in your teaching and in your conversations with your peers and so on. The second thing that we know about using the technologies and new information and new skills is that they flourish best in democracies. There is a long literature which looks at dictatorships, which looks at monarchies, and which looks at democracies. And we see that technology, knowledge, all of these are generated best in the context of democracies. This is particularly the case in fields like education, in the humanities, in the social sciences, because you need the freedom that academics have in democracies if knowledge is to advance, particularly in the social sciences, humanities, and disciplines like education. So that is also very important to keep in mind, and I hope you all will take this forward. Help build the values, the ethics, the kinds of behavior patterns that are needed for democracies to flourish. Build the ethics and values of your children, your students, so that you can have a peaceful, prosperous democracy, and spread that as you all work as teachers and in education. So keep those in mind as you now take on the challenge of the fourth industrial revolution, working with the opportunities it will bring and facing its challenges. I congratulate all of you who have obtained the postgraduate diploma in education at SLIIT, and I look forward to seeing the kind of society that will be shaped by teachers and educators such as yourself. Thank you.